It's time on the breakdown. We caught up with All Black coach Ian Foster. JK's got an All Blacks team for you, and we can only imagine what that looks like. And Super Rugby Pacific is back across the Tasman, and everyone but my Highlanders had a win.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Kia ora, e te whānau, hello and welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Laura McGoldrick. Great to be back with you tonight, joined by Sir John Kirwan, Stephen Bates and Jeff Wilson, and we have finally made it across the ditch for some rugby. Plenty of excitement in the build-up, but Jeff... Are you okay? I'm deeply concerned. You're a little bit your team just not that good.
Salty. I'm seriously salty right now. The fact I've got to come on the show, I missed last week's JK's celebrations, as always, and now I've got to hear them again. This was not a good day for the Highlanders. Look, our campaign is in tatters right now. I'm bitterly disappointed. JK is celebrating. Batesy's keeping his powder dry right now, but he can't help himself. And you're a Crusader fan, and that hurts even more. This is going to be a tough 50
But the Highlanders
are
so off the pace. I've never seen them this far off the pace, Goldie. What's going on?
We'll get to that.
Oh dear, oh dear. JK, there was a lot of excitement about heading over there. Did it live up to the hype, do you think?
Well, what about those Highlanders? That's about as excited as I got.
They only play in front of big crowds, and there was no crowds there. So I tell you what, I'm disappointed about that. You know, the fact that there was supposed to be a super round. There was supposed to be big crowds. The upper tier was empty. I'm assuming they tried to sell tickets for it. Look, I went into this weekend excited, looking forward to the contest. I thought there was a lot of penalties. I thought there was a lot of scrums. Once again, we had ill discipline. I'm hoping it's going to improve between all of these sides going forward. I did enjoy the Fiji and Drua. The way that they played the enterprise, they took on the Blues head on. They weren't good enough to get a win, but they were the one for me highlight out of the weekend in terms of the fact they were there to compete, and they were there to do the best they could, Batesy. And it wasn't quite enough. Blues, though, showed the signs of a really, really good team.
I'll just say on there, I think, like, as a showpiece for a super round, I think even if you've got to give away tickets, you know, and this is a showpiece, and the stands had to be full. You know, they're trying to make a mark, they're trying to make an imprint, and you look at the cameras, and I was at home, the wife goes, oh, there's a good crowd, and the cameras pan out, and then you see the top tier. Yep. So even if they had to give away tickets, I think they had to say, we are here, this is a super round, look how many people want to come watch a game. All right, well, let's crack into it then. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the weekend. Super Rugby with Nurofen, thanks to Chemist Warehouse. Now, the first matchup we're going to talk about, of course, was the Crusaders, which we've just seen. Now, Stephen, did you think it was vintage Crusaders? Off the back of a loss, obviously, to the Blues last weekend, how do you think they played? No, I don't think it was vintage, but I think, you know, they probably got a bit of a reality check. I thought they'd roll over the top of the Brumbies a lot easier. At half-time, it was very, very close. But I suppose when you look at it as a whole, they're on the road for 4 weeks, all over in Australia, and they picked up 5 points and they're on their way. So was it vintage? No, but they got 5 points, so they should be happy at that extent anyway.
I think the biggest concern for me is when we have very, very fast defensive lines against us, which is what happened in the first half. We're not probably performing as well as what we'd like. And the Crusaders suffered a wee bit in the first half, and then I think the intensity that they play at, you know, just got them in the second half. What is it, 30-odd points? It was 7-3 at half-time. So average first half, but second half pretty good.
Crusaders are a team, though, have got so much talent across their board. They'll create 5 or 6 clear chances. They'll make the most of them, and they'll hurt you on the scoreboard. They made a lot of errors in this game, a lot of mistakes. Both teams did. Rebels got to try to maybe look a little bit more respectable, but it wasn't in the end. Crusaders did exactly what the Blues did. Went about their business, created enough key moments to score enough points, Laura, to get the 5 points, because that was how you wanted to start this weekend, was take those 5 points, bank those, settle on your campaign against the Australian teams and the Fiji and Drua, and then move forward. Speaking of moving forward, we'll move forward to that Highlanders game. Jeff, do you think
backwards.
it was...
move backwards to it.
Yeah, we'll move backwards to it. Do you think it was jet lag that maybe did them in? It's a bit of a hike across the ditch, and we're not used to travel.
Let's put some context in this, though. This is the second best Australian Australian side, the Brumbies team, and they were right there. They almost scored a try on the right-hand side, which would have got them within a point. They could have taken the lead with about 13 or 14 minutes to play. Once again, though, they didn't go out and deliver. They made far too many errors, Batesy, and to me, it didn't look as though they were playing with the energy they were playing with at home. This will be a performance that Tony Brown will be particularly disappointed about. The fact they let in a couple of soft tries. This was not, I suppose, when you haven't got Aaron Smith there to lead them. Big player. No Shannon Frizzell as well. They lost Manakis to Selby Ricketts, so their depth is being stretched, but in the end, this wasn't a performance they'll be proud of.
I'm not going to kick a dog when he's down, Jeff, so, mate, and I'll go to bat for you. I reckon they got some impressive forwards, the Brumbies, they really do. Valentini, yep. Samu, and also Brown, the number 7. I've never seen him play before, plus guys like Swain in that. Their captain wasn't even playing, he was an international front rower. So what I enjoyed about the Brumbies is everyone knows they're going to maul. They saw that and they thought, right, the Highlanders think we're going to maul. We're actually going to play off that maul. So they bunter played and they did things slightly outside, and they're quite direct in what they did. You can probably put a case that they play quite boring rugby. They kick to corners and squeeze you. But I thought they were methodical in what they did. And if we're talking about the Crusaders, they did what they had to do to get the win. Well, let's be fair, the Brumbies did also, so well done. So I did think the Brumbies showed some real promise.
The only thing that annoyed me was the last sort of 7 or 8 minutes. The game was still in the balance, and the Highlanders actually got on a roll. And then someone went down injured. And it broke up that momentum, and that really annoyed me. Do we need to start looking at rolling subs to stop that sort of stuff? Because I thought they still had a chance, Goldie. Jokes aside, you're right. The Brumbies are way up with the Blues on top of the I love saying that. Way up with the Blues on top of the tournament. But the interesting thing was they were in it late. They're just making those errors, Goldie. They're making those errors all the time under pressure.
It's clear right now the Highlanders aren't a contender to win a title. We should be starting focus on the teams that can push on to win this competition. And we will start seeing that now. We'll start seeing with these Trans-Tasman games. Look, there are a number of games in this, though, where you're sitting here going, the Reds, the Hurricanes are, arguably our 4th best team. They've upset and dominated the Reds for the last 40 minutes. That's got to be concerning if you're a Reds fan. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And once again, we suffered from what? We had a weekend with cards. We had a weekend littered with penalties. I'm getting frustrated right now because in the end, I'm not seeing any changes of behaviours from the players because they are the ones that are responsible. And we are quite often putting it on the referees. We're putting the challenge on them. But how about the players making some concessions? And we're not seeing changes in behaviour. Are we just supposed to get used to it? Now, the fact we're supposed to see cards every week.
Yeah, but what are we... This is... I don't disagree with you, but I think it's a combination. And I'll go back to a couple of weeks ago. Really good game. Crusaders, Blues. Everyone was involved. Intense. Referee was involved. I think it's a combination. But what do we need to do then? Do we need to start finding players? How are we going to have change? Because we are continuing to let our game fall into this. I mean, you've just got to plan for it, like you said. So what are we supposed to do? You're coaching in this environment. You're working in and around the Blues. And I know these are high-pressure environments. These are high-pressure moments. Yeah. But when we're continuing to see the same mistakes and errors and yellow cards and red cards every week, is that not a sign the players aren't adjusting? Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's all about tackle height. And you've got to remember that this has come in over the last couple of years around, and I'm not talking about tackles hitting the head and stuff, but as a general rule, we've always been told, tackle the legs, chop the legs, but all of a sudden, that creates too fast a ball. So all of a sudden, the tackle heights, the coaches want the tackle heights to come up, which comes closer to the head, and quite often it's the second man in. So if the first man in that makes contact, his tackle height is high, the other guy that's coming in to get double shoulders, he's got a target zone of about that big, and they're slipping up time and time again. That there's lazy. That one there, that's just lazy. And I personally don't think that is as bad as one that goes shoulder straight to the head. So why should we be worried if there's fast ball? Because, as he just said, it's a high-pressure environment. Your job's to win. So, JK, if I'm playing you, I don't want you to have fast ball because you'll skin me on the edge. Yeah, but if everyone's got fast ball, if everyone's the same, doesn't it just make it even? Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. So I'm trying any advantage to get on top of you. So I want to slow down your ball. And that's a professional environment. So it's being coached. It's a high-pressure environment. Of course it is. Hence why I say maybe we've just got to get used to it. I mean, the fact that players are prepared to lie on the ball, to do that second shoulder, like you say, the second tackle.
coming in, using their shoulder. I'll take the risk.
Don't worry about the fans. Don't worry about the fans, people.
Is that what fans want to see, though? Do you think?
No, well, they're not. They haven't turned up to the Super Weekend. They're not turning up in general, so we've got to start looking at ourselves and say, well, why aren't the fans here? And I understand what you're saying, Batesy. I get that, mate. I get that. Right? I get it. But, I mean, if we've got a Super Weekend and no one's turned up, we've got crowds not turning up, then the game needs to look at itself and say, this is not acceptable. Mums are looking at that on the weekend. Mothers are going, would I let my son play that?
Look, but I come to this, and Batesy, this I need to hear it from you. That are we just in a situation, in a cycle right now, where the defence is dominating the attack?
Yeah, it is.
And that's the cycle we have to live in unless they change the laws of the game.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, so hence my point. I've just got to get used to what I'm seeing right now. OK, that's the competition we are in. It's what the Highlanders have to prepare for. All the teams know the situation.
I'll also say, I suppose what you do when your team gets down to, and you look at the Waratahs who got down to 13 very early, all of a sudden you want to see fast ball, you want to see space, you want to see tries. Well, that's what you got. You know what I mean? Yes, it was 15 but 13, but that's not the Chiefs' issue. They were disciplined, so that's fine. So, for example, if you do an indiscretion, if you tackle high, if you get sin-binned, all of a sudden, JK, then what happens is they can't put all that pressure at the ruck time because they're so short on the edge that they've got to put less people in the ruck, and then you get the open space you want.
So I come back to this, going back to the Highlanders. Three penalties in a row should also be a yellow card because they're just cheating, coming in from the sides and stuff.
Agree.
So what do you think that we should see in terms of penalty? Should it be financial? Are the consequences not enough for players that they're going and making?
Particularly the foul play thing, I think, Laura. I mean, the foul play thing for me is it's a controllable situation where it is lazy. But the fact that they can then, once they've suspended for 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it might be, you can go and live a normal life, and the fact that you get compensated to the full, whether you lose half your pay, whatever that might be, but you are endangering I think the reputation of the sport and the example you are setting for the fans across the world, across all of our rugby who watch it and go, oh, is that how I'm supposed to play?
I'll just say one other thing. I agree with you on that fact there. And you talk about the Super Round, and that's what we're in. OK, Caleb Clark was over there. He was doing promotional activities, you know what I mean? As a spectator, as a fan, as a broadcaster, or however you look at it, we've got to have our best players playing. Caleb Clark should have been playing this weekend. He's a fantastic player. If we're trying to create a showpiece, we need guys like him playing. But we can't because he's suspended. So is there a way in that he's suspended doing that? You know what I mean? He's back this weekend. But we need our best players playing. So if suspending them is not enough, do we look, as you've mentioned, into a monetary value? You know, because we need this. If we're trying to create a product, if we're trying to create a showcase, we need the best players playing.
In the NBA, if you get a technical foul, just a technical foul, it's $2 or $3 grand, just like that, immediately, $2 or $3 grand US. If you go do anything towards a referee, it's $25,000 to $30,000 US immediately. And I know for a fact that during Super Rugby this year, one of the players called one of the referees an idiot on the field during the game. Now, that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable from our players to treat people like that and to hurt the spectacle.
It's really interesting because I often hear that we need to protect the players. So the players need to protect themselves. It's now up to them because I think the referees are trying to. I think leadership of the game is saying we need to look after the players. The only ones that aren't looking after each other is the players. So...
The idiot call would have got you fined in cricket. You would have lost half your match fee for that.
Just like immediately,
just
right?
Straight away.
Wouldn't take,
no doubt about it.
A moment. We are so slow to move with the rest of the world in rugby. Everyone else is protecting their game.
How do you think the rugby players right now take that? If they said, right, there's going to be match penalties, you'll take some of your fees away if you are to behave like this. Would they go OK? Would they cop it sweet, or would they kick up a little bit about it?
They wouldn't enjoy it or even entertain the idea.
You'd have to ask Rob Nichol.
Yeah, there you go.
You ask the players. You know, you would. No, seriously, you'd ask the players.
You'd have to go and ask Rob Nichol
how they would feel about it. They would.
But I think the one point you've got to talk about is leadership that moves quickly to solve a problem. We don't get that in our game at the moment. There's a real issue going on in our game, and we're not getting that leadership from the players or from the NZR. So that's what we need to do. Also, the referees, I've said this to Bryce publicly, you know, there's no criticism. All three parties need to move quicker to resolve the issue.
I just want to help the referees by changing the players' behaviours. in the fact taking some of that pressure off them by the fact that they're not prepared to take the risks. Right now it appears as though they are prepared to take, which is putting the TMO, putting the refs in a difficult situation. Why do you think the TMO is having to look at every part of the game? Because it's happening in every part of the game. No one's bailing out. It's become so gladiatorial, JK Batesy, for me. It's become so physical that that's the highest priority, is you have to go out there and be physical and smash them.
OK, I'm going to, just because I think we're going to, the show's just whizzing by and Jeff told us he was calm. I don't think he is.
I'm only getting started.
Here we go. What we're going to do now is take a look at the table after the Super Round.
Oh, didn't you do this to me?
This weekend. Well, you're not even on the front page, so I wouldn't worry just yet. Stephen, what do you think so far? The Blues looking OK on top. The Crusaders looking lovely at 3 there. Feeling very good about that. What do you make of the table?
Oh, it's great. I'm wrapped that the Blues are up the top, but I guess what we make about it is that it's still really tight. And the fact that, I know, Jeff, I'll just dig you in here. I know you're not on the first page, but you can still make the quarterfinals, and then you just, at the end of the day, I know it's a terrible saying, but then it's just one win. You know what I mean? And then you get to go up. So there is still a chance here. I'm obviously happy with the way the Blues are going at the moment.
No chance. Basically, that's ridiculous. Highlanders have no chance.
No, they can make the 8. Of course they can.
The way they're playing at the moment, I don't believe they have a chance.
We were right there. Hold on. We were right there against the Crusaders. Right, we were right there against the Hurricanes. Should have almost come together win. We were right there against the Brumbies. So bottom line, I'm looking at them and going, there's no doubt we have to get better and improve, but we are good enough to make the 8. Don't be absurd.
No, I'm serious.
Make the 8.
I am serious.
We get ourselves in that position.
Looking at the way they're playing at the moment, looking at their attack today, looking at the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think they're in serious trouble. I don't think they'll make the 8.
In trouble in terms of the players, or do you think Tony Brown needs to take a little bit of responsibility here? What is it you think?
Well, I haven't seen. I've always expected to see innovation from the Highlanders when they've lacked possibly the same players as the opposition. I haven't seen that this year. I think they're lacking confidence. I think they're lacking a whole lot of stuff, Goldie. You know, I'm not being facetious here. I'm just saying I don't think right now, with looking at the other teams, that they will make the top 8. I hope they do. I hope we get all the New Zealand sides in the top 8. I want to wait till next week, to be fair, because the Australian teams last year, when we played each other the first week, there was a bit of point difference, and I think we've seen that this week. I want to see them improve next week after the opposition. The only thing the Highlanders do have in their favour is that was the top Australian side.
I'm still thinking the Reds could be the top Australian side. I'm not sure, but they were disappointing against the Hurricanes. I would say this, though. I do think, basically, that the Australian teams are better than they were last year. Better prepared, looking better to go and play against the New Zealand sides going forward.
Yep. Well, I'd agree with that. And I would say that I think they started really well, the Reds. Down a couple of players, a couple of experienced players, started really well, and then I don't want to go back to where we go. Then what happened is they got a couple of cards, and for whatever reason, the fact that they got a couple of cards, their discipline just went out the window. They started dropping ball, they started giving away penalties, and then that compounded. I just wonder if they had a little bit more experience, like O'Connor, they could have dealt with that situation better, because they didn't deal with that situation. They allowed the Hurricanes to get on top of them, partly because of their own fault, and then the game just got away from them. But I don't think the Reds are done yet.
OK, well, let's take a look at the Blues-Drua game. Now, this game was perhaps a little closer than the scoreline would suggest. Jeff, you felt?
Well, look, the Drua made a couple of errors during the game, which cost them 14 points. They showed some great enterprise, though. It's not often you're seeing a loose forward putting grubbers through willy-nilly all over the place. Look, they were fun to watch. The crowd got in behind them. Look, they'd shown through the competition they could be dangerous. But the Blues were very similar, like Batesy said, to the Crusaders in regards to the fact that they got the job done. And they created enough opportunities to get the bonus point. There were some small things in the game that they'll look at and go, you know what? I mean, this is just far too easy at this level. A nice angled run, but a missed tackle. The Drua, for me, they're that team that are still learning, but there's some really positive signs. This was just it was about business for the Blues, but I know Liam McDonald, when you get some momentum, Batesy, though, you sort of want to keep that going. I don't know if this was did that, really.
I don't think the Blues will be swinging from the rafters after their last 2 performances. Yep, they were absolutely wrapped. I don't think they'll be quite that way this week. But in saying that, once again, they got their 5 points. They probably took a little bit of reality check, and sometimes losing and still getting 5 points is fine.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Standouts for you?
Mickey Byrne, the coach. I think that what you saw early was Mickey's always been a great tactical attacker with the kicking game. And we saw that early. He saw some weaknesses in behind the centre, behind the wingers. He did that early. I like the way he's let them play with a mix. So we're still seeing that Fijian style. They still run it. You know, that was a loose forward that kicked the ball. They all can play 7. So I think that was really good. So I think Mickey Byrne and the way the boys, the Fijian Brewer boys are playing is absolutely great for the tournament. The Blues, I thought the Blues were average, but it was okay. They just needed to get that done. They had a lot of young players out there that changed things around. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is probably a little bit like Jack Goodhue today. He just wanted to get through the game, and I saw him icing his shoulder. So it was competent enough, and I don't think they'll be worried at all. It's a great thing if you're a coach, Batesy. Now that you're a coach, you've had 2 great weeks, and now the Drew have brought your feet back onto the ground. Good stuff. Got another couple of weeks away, and on Monday it won't be a very nice video session, so perfect.
Yeah,
and we're still on top.
You learn a lot from the ugly wins. Now, Jeff, you noticed some things this weekend weren't to do with the rugby, though, because obviously you were so upset from the Highlanders game. It was a bit of a rollover. But what was for you?
But, carry on.
That was a lovely little dig.
They're going to keep coming, but that is fine. Our time will come. Our Highlanders team, our time will come. What I did enjoy, though, was some of the coverage, and particularly the access we were able to get not long before kick-off. An opportunity to go up onto the field, talk to Harry Wilson. So they're just in the last throngs of preparing for a big game. He's having a chat. I think it's Justin Harrison there, is it? Who's having a chat to him about, OK, what's going on? How close are you? What are you looking forward to? This is literally 10 minutes before the game. And then Mickey Byrne, who you talked about as well, he joined the panel. Now, it's just great. I suppose when you're in a competitive market over there, they're looking at it and going, I need to get as much access as we possibly can. But to get that sort of conversation going on, it's happening more and more in other sports. It's great the fact we've been getting the coaches. We've started to get those at the start of our build-ups. But this is moments before the game. This is fantastic, Batesy, right?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. Yeah, and the only thing I'd say from a player's point of view, I just think you've got to allow the teams to choose the players, because I know some people...
Yeah, of course.
Don't do interviews well, and all they'll be thinking about is during the warm-up is, I've got to do an interview, I've got to do an interview, I've got to do an interview. So there's certain people that could do it simple, like Harry can, so he did it,
Don't agree, Bates.
I 100% do, JK, because otherwise you won't get access.
Yeah, but, well, actually, we're paying for the access.
You won't get it, mate.
Right? The wages come from Sky subscription, sponsors, and this is where our whole game needs to change. Everyone in the football team, and we can take time to teach them, right? But we've got to teach our players that is part of the game. We've got to make sense, because the NBA are doing it. The NFL are doing it. The soccer's doing it. Everyone's doing it. If we don't keep up, then, like, I read this thing yesterday where someone said, Ricky Ioane, I hate the way he does this. But Ricky Ioane is a lovely young man. I really like him. I know his family. But unless we let the public know him, right, then they're not going to understand why he does that when he scores.
I'll just say one thing. You've got to remember, some people that play our game, English is their second and third language. OK?
It's all good.
And sometimes before the game, that is very stressful to them. Yep.
Well, we should be able to speak in their language then. That's our job then.
I do agree with that, Batesy. Like you say, it's an important point, the fact that clearly Harry Wilson was happy to do that. Clearly he was happy, but in saying that, he recognises the responsibility he has to promote the game and engage, and you get that one step closer. It's not anymore about the 80 minutes of rugby. There has to be so much more in and around the sport. OK,
so obviously I watch a lot of cricket, and they are often mic'd up during the game. So I'd like to know, Jeff, when you were playing, how would you have coped if someone said to you... Because I agree, there's got to be players buy-in, and they need to understand why they do it. It's a package deal. People at home want to sit, they want to be involved in the game. But how would you have coped as a player?
You would have loved it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have shut me up, just like tonight. Bottom line, it wouldn't have changed. The fact that in the end, if that was what was going to help the fan understand the game, get closer to the game, enjoy the spectacle, be part of the occasion. That's the expectation now of every fan.
Might that help?
They see it every day.
Might that help bring thumbs on seats?
Yeah, totally. But it's learned. I understand what Batesy says, because it's not part of their learning. In fact, I think sometimes we try and make them something they're not. So we're trying to homogenise them. But if they start learning it from a young age and it gets taught properly, then it won't be such an issue. And I think that's what we need to realise. It is just part of the package.
Watch this space, I guess. We'll see what happens. It's time for trivia question time, and I've upset Jeff enough tonight.
I thought we'd cut this.
So it's time to really upset JK. Yes, sorry, Dole. It is time for trivia question. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yes, thank you.
OK, great. So tonight's trivia question is... Here I go again. The Brumbies did, of course, beat the Highlanders. Who and when was the last Australian team to beat a New Zealand side?
Counting today.
Not what? Counting today. You can add that. We'll mention that again after the break. When we come back, the answer, plus we catch up with All Blacks head coach Ian Foster. We'll see you soon.
Tap on the background.
Welcome back to The Breakdown. So if you've just joined us, we have a trivia question happening at the moment, which JK is very upset about. But here we go. It's time for the answer. The question was, who and when was the last Australian team to beat a New Zealand side before this weekend? And JK, I'm going to come straight to you. What do you think the answer is?
I have no idea.
When you said, ask me first, I presume that meant, got it.
No, I have absolutely no idea. The Brumbies today.
Oh, yeah. Did the Highlanders lose that game? Oh, Jeff, sorry. It's too easy. It's like, I don't even know what's happening.
Kirsty, Kirsty, where are you?
Kirsty's having a heck of a
Kirsty's
time in America.
flying away back to New Zealand.
She's having a great time in America.
Welcome back, Kirsty. I hope Coachella was awesome. I know you've been watching the Nets. Come on back.
You should pop over. It might relax you a bit if you popped over, watch some NBA.
I'll tell you what, I watched the NBA today. It was awesome. Jumping's going great. Anyway.
Hey, don't avoid the question, you guys.
Don't avoid the question.
Yeah.
I know the answer.
What is it?
The Brumbies beat the Hurricanes in the last round last year.
No.
Oh, bugger.
No, close.
I've got no idea, but I'm going to say the Reds beat the Highlanders last year.
Close, just got the wrong Kiwi team. Reds beats the Chiefs in 2021, May of last year. 40 to 34.
They won 2 games.
Ring any bells?
Well, no, maybe the Brumbies won the other game before that.
Maybe?
No, I think they did.
JK, I reckon you've got not a single one of these trivia questions since I've been here.
I said the Brumbies today. Or was that wrong?
That was slightly wrong, but that's all right. That's OK. Look, you tried. Well, you tried. Did the Highlanders are just joking? Let's go. We're going to catch up. We're very lucky to have with us tonight the head coach of the All Blacks, Ian Foster. G'day, how are you doing? What did you make of that first up hit out across the ditch?
Evening all. Thanks for having me. And Reds Chiefs here, and by the way, Damien got red carded in that game, and that sort of helped the Chiefs lose that. So just thought I'd add my trivia knowledge to it.
Nice.
Hey!
Could have texted me, Fozzie.
I tried to ask you in the break and they wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
You should have asked Batesy.
I did. They wouldn't let me.
You're cheating. You can't cheat. Not on my watch. So, Fozzie, what do you reckon? How do you think the weekend went?
Oh, look, I thought it was really good. It's, it's a competition that, well, I guess what I applaud is that we're trying something a bit different. We're getting all the 5 New Zealand teams over there and playing against the Australians. I think it's a great initiative, and it's, I guess the competition will reflect back and review how it went. But, I think it's a great thing that we're trying to adapt and add a bit of, a new dimension to Super Rugby.
Fozzie, you've added to the staff just recently. Has that come from your review from last year? How's that come? And if you need a red wine consultant, I'm available.
Yeah, I've been waiting actually, JK, and I've heard you got some nice wines, so I'm looking forward to catching up. So it's well, look, there's always going to be a bit of change. We've had we've got Foxy leaving after the Irish series, so we've got he's going to be replaced by Joe Smith, which is pretty well advertised, and we just sort of felt that after last year, through the review, we just really believe we've got a growing number of players, or I guess new players at the international level, and we just felt our overall skill level can add with a bit of a boost, and that's why in behind the scenes we've added Straws into the mix for that regard. So. He brings a bit of a focus on the micro part of the game, and is going to work alongside the coaches to make sure that we're really at cutting edge at that point.
Fozzie, so you talked about the review, and you're watching Super Rugby. Are you seeing the players that you think you can, that you need, that can address what's come up in the review?
Yeah, look, I think so. You know, I mean, part of the review is extremely positive about some of the things that we went through. You know, without dwelling on last year, it was a very unique year. You know, one like probably the All Blacks have never had before. So. Yeah, and that brought up some challenges, brought up a whole lot of exciting things too. You know, normally in the third year of a World Cup cycle, you're probably starting to try to build your depth, whereas we were sort of forced to do that last year with the 10 tests, 12 weeks, no, I guess with MIQ and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, we've got a good base of players, and that's why Super Rugby this year has been so important for us, because we had up to 40 players at the end of the campaign last year, and so giving them all an opportunity to go and show how much they've learned, and I guess put their hand up for this year. So, and there's a few doing that.
Fozzie, I've got to ask you, you've played Super Rugby, you've coached in Super Rugby, and now you rely heavily on it to give you the players for the highest level. In your mind, what do you see as the purpose of the Super Rugby competition?
Well, look, your players need to play, and you know, we want a high quality sort of international type competition where we can, you know, test ourselves against, you know, players from, I guess, within and also in other countries. So, you know, it's changed around a lot, Super Rugby, over many, many years. When rugby went professional and it started, everyone thought it'd be the downfall of New Zealand rugby because we wouldn't be able to deal in the professional era. But we've shown that, you know, we've got some great franchises there at the moment, all doing a lot of work in terms of the development, linking with the provincial unions and the system. You know, whilst we critique it hard and we talk a lot about its weaknesses, it's also got a massive degree of strength to it, and it has helped support an All Black team that has, you know, consistently been able to perform I guess at the top sort of echelon. And so, you know, we just keep having a tough, even competition, and where possible, as many games against other country players as well.
So, Fozzie, do you think we're missing the South African side, and does that have an effect on you understanding one of our biggest foe?
Oh, look, it's you know, I could say something and I'd probably give a few headlines, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's been well documented why South Africa aren't in it at the moment. You know, the travel would have been impossible the last 2 or 3 years. And before that, a lot of the South African players, top players, were leaving and playing in Europe, which sort of weakened their teams. But look, in an ideal world, I loved having South Africa in the competition. You know, they brought a different style, and now we've just got to find other ways to grow our experience of playing them.
Fozzie, I want to ask you the fact we've seen, obviously there's been a lot of attention brought to the fact, and you mentioned the red card to Damian McKenzie last year, and it has all of a sudden, it's been high profile, right? The fact that a number of players have suffered this year. Are you concerned at the scrutiny now and the fact that, do you think it's going to have an impact at test level?
Look, it will have an impact at test level, no doubt about that. I think we saw that in 2019 at the World Cup when this initiative really hit home and started. They've certainly been ramping it up this year, I think, and we've got to learn. We've got to learn as players, and it's there's, you know, I think when you analyse it, Goldie, it's that I think we have improved the quality of our tackler, and I think I see a lot of tacklers. You don't see too many red cards for tacklers hitting the ball carrier high, but a lot of the problem seems to be the tackle assist. It's the second guy coming in, and I think it's one of those things in the game where defence coaches, we're all trying to get, you know, 2 in the tackle to win that collision. It's often the second guy coming in who's not making that late adjustment based on the body change in the tackle. So it's an area we've got to really think deeply about how hard we send that second man in and whether it's worth it at times.
Fozzie, if you look at the stocks you've got round, back to the players, if you look at the stocks you got round, what do you reckon when you've got to pick your squad in a little while, what do you reckon the one area that's going to be the hardest to pick, where there's going to be some good players that are going to miss out? Where's your stocks the best, mate?
Well, we're the best and we're the hardest. It's, you know, I think we've got got some big decisions to make. I think, you know, it's well documented. We've got some big decisions to make in the midfield. We've probably got some big decisions to make in the loose forwards. I'd also put the front row in that category as well. You know, it's, you know, last year we went away with, you know, we were forced to take 8 props with us last year. And so, you know, we won't be taking 8 props this year. And so there will be some tough decisions. And clearly with the last 2 years, we've had a lot of opportunities for a number of new players to come in and put their hand up. And many of them have actually played really, really well. And so you look at some of our loose forwards and some of the versatility we've got, I guess the Ethan Blackadders, the Akira who's got coming back, I guess the rise of Dalton has all added a little bit of complexity, but that's exciting for us.
How many do you plan on picking?
36 at this stage, Laura. So it's 36 for the first squad. That's sort of a standard Steinlager series size squad. But that can change, you know, maybe it won't go up, but it could change slightly down based on injuries and who we have left standing after Super Rugby.
Fozzie, I say it every week, 18 tests to go, so actually not that many. Does that influence what you're going to do around your selection for the 15 that go out there? Because that's not a lot of time to get combinations going.
Yeah, look, good question. You know, I think if you look at a normal World Cup cycle, you normally spend 2 years, I guess, really cementing your culture, your team, your plan. You spend your 3rd year really building your depth and honing it down, and then your 4th year you just go and do it at a World Cup. And we've probably had to flip that over a little bit, JK. Like the first 2 years with the circumstance we got dealt with, we really, you know, we basically had to leave the shores with big squads. So we've really had a depth strategy the last 2 years. And this year we've got to hone that right down. So, you know, in many ways, whilst picking the 30, 34, 36-man squad is going to be tough, and it always is. But a lot of our energy right now is on the combinations within that. It's within the 15 down to the 23, because this year we've really got to, I think you'll see us focus more on cementing combinations and having a bit more continuity in how we select the group.
Ian Foster, I want to thank you so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. I know you've had a busy weekend in Gisborne, so thank you, and we'll see you again very soon.
Fozzie, stay tuned though. JK's 23 is coming up. Part 3. His 23 is coming up. So see how he goes.
Yeah. Like,
that's probably his golf score on the first 2 holes.
Ian Foster, head coach for the All Blacks. Well, for this week's Jersey Tales, Jim caught up with All Black legend Grant Fox.
Well, here I am at my old university rugby club. I've got a few jerseys with me. Let's go and have a chat about them.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's show them how we feel. Sean Fitzpatrick and the All Blacks.
Strong, again, great delivery to Fox. Another drop goal attempt. This time!
Time is virtually up on the clock. Grant Fox can win the test match with this kick. He's got it!
This one here, I'll just pull it up and excuse that it's been sitting in a cupboard for a long, long time, and it's a little bit worse for wear, but that's the New Zealand Schoolboys, 1980. So New Zealand Schools didn't have a team until 1978 was the first time they played, and in 1980 was the first time we toured. So we went away to Australia for a 4-game tour.
Well, that jersey really set you off for a succession of black jerseys. What was the next New Zealand team that you made?
Probably, well, I can't remember what order it was in, whether it was Colts or New Zealand Varsities. I'll pick up the Varsities jersey here. So this was, I'm pretty sure this was 1982. Yeah, that was a universities team, so picked from all the university clubs around the country. So I played Colts in 82 and 83. So that's the New Zealand Colts jersey. This is the New Zealand Juniors jersey. A bit worse for wear too, but yeah, so there were some notables. That's the photograph I did find. So from that side, I mean, Andy Earle, Dean Kenny, Kurt Sherlock, Steve McDowell progressed to the All Blacks.
When you played for all of these New Zealand teams, did you get a confidence that you were going to make the All Blacks from here?
I mean, the first dream about playing for the All Blacks, belief probably started when I made the New Zealand schools team in '80. You know, it's the first time I started to believe that, you know, maybe if I work hard, you know, and I'm a bit lucky, you know, I could get through to, you know, achieve the dream of becoming an All Black. And these were stepping stones along the way, but you're never quite sure, are you, until your name's finally read out. This is the '87 World Cup final jersey. I've got rid of a lot of All Black jerseys over time to, you know, for charitable reasons and that, but this is the one that was never going to leave the wardrobe nor the rest of that set. You know, Eden Park, full house. Remember the bus trip into the ground from the Pounama Hotel? It was just the people to see us off. I mean, I don't think I'd ever seen this before. I can't recall it. You know, hundreds of people at the Pounama seeing us off on the bus. It's sort of more commonplace nowadays, but back then those things never really happened. On the way to the ground, the throngs of people are cheering for the bus. I mean, and incredibly nervous I was, as all the group were. But I remember getting into the dressing room, you know, parking up and going for one of them, and I felt a calmness come over me, because it's like, well, this is where we want to be. We worked hard to get here. This is home, right? Let's get stuck in. It's become a massive event. I mean, we didn't know back in '87 when we started this, you know, just what it would turn into. You know, I think it was Friday the 20th of May, we played against Italy at Eden Park. The stadium was only half full. No one knew what to expect. JK lit it up with his try. I'm certain that changed the whole dynamic of that tournament. Then away we went, and ever since then it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And they're hard things to win. You know, we've gone in as favourites to nearly all of the tournaments, maybe not quite all, but nearly them all. And what have we won now? 3. So they're not easy to win. Yeah, so this is a jersey from the 2015 World Cup that obviously I didn't play, but I helped select that group, and so we got a signed jersey with all the boys on it. So very special jersey that, because I've been involved in 4 World Cups now. 2 as a player, won 1, didn't win 1, and as a selector for 2, so won 1 and didn't win 1. So yeah, that's also very special to me, because it's still a connection with the black jersey, you know, with the team, but just in a different role. Well, that's my jersey tale. Thanks for letting me share it with you.
Kia ora everyone, welcome back to The Breakdown. Now, I'm hugely nervous because right before we were coming to air, Jeff Wilson has put his hand up and said, I've got something.
I've got something.
Oh, dear.
On June the 5th last year,
oh dear,
the Brumbies beat the Hurricanes 12-10. That was a week after the other result.
We'll take that up with producer Jim Kays, and I will come back to you at a later date. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're wrong.
Jeff Wilson.
No more trivia.
Back in your box. OK, now JK last week was with me and we were with Joey Wheeler, and Joey named his too early 15. And so we thought JK could have a crack at it. Now, look, I love JK. I've thoroughly enjoyed spending time with him on this show. And so I was excited to see what he'd say. And I think most people were. You know, we have a wonderful graphics team here that write it all up. JK sends it over. The problem with this week was no one can read what JK has written because he's written it on a paper towel. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like.
Yeah, well,
so a couple of takeaways here.
Why can't you read that?
Because
everyone
ink runs on paper towels.
But it doesn't matter. I had a glass of wine.
Did you write it with wine?
I particularly like number 17. I think that player's going to be awesome.
Yeah, now what's happened there?
What is
now I'm just looking at.
I dropped him late. I dropped him late.
Is 22? I need to know. Is that? I don't know what's happened there.
That's Angus.
That's the. Was
Angus Tarvol.
Oh, clearly, obviously,
yes. That says rosé to me. That says 2 rosés deep and not really sure. And then 22, is that Damien McKenzie or David Havili? What are we doing there?
That's Damien McKenzie.
Right.
Everyone, you must realise that every selector writes their team on a napkin.
Do they?
Of course they do.
OK.
Of course they do. So you can't read that?
No, is that what she's going to send to Fozzie?
Bauer.
What were you reading behind it, by the way? I'm just trying to read what's going on. What was the book?
I have no idea what's behind it. I don't know what that is.
I'd like to know what the wine was, to be perfectly honest. But would you take us through it?
I will.
Yeah, right, great.
Bauer.
Yep.
Cody Taylor.
Right.
Ofo Tunganafasi.
You're right.
Whitelock. Retallick. You don't need to write his whole name. Bates would be interested in this because I've put Dalton Popp at 6, just because he's outstanding and he can jump in the line-out. Sam Cane at 7 because he's incumbent captain. Artie Savia Why wouldn't you understand this? Aaron Smith, AS. Bowden Barrett, double B.
That looks like an S.
Christian Cullen, Christian Cullen on the left wing. Is that Christian Cullen?
And Christian Cullen on the left wing just because he's making a comeback.
Yep.
That's Caleb Clark,
RTS. Right? Rico Ioane. Forgot. 14.
Will Jordan. I tell you what, I'll put you out of your misery.
Oh, my Lord.
But again, I am going to need to see that bottle of wine. Here it is.
So quickly, let's start with the Dalton Popp one.
Is that the one that made you drop your head, Jeff?
Yeah, well, you're forever not wanting to play guys out of position. And he's an open side flanker. So why in the world have you taken a guy that you've said was always a 7 and you've decided to move him to 6? Mills is the same when he's on the show, Bates. He was forever. Are we looking for specialists, or can Dalton Popp be an international 6?
I think he could be an international 7. He's the best 7 in the country at the moment, isn't he? Playing the best rugby. But, I think Dalton can play 6 at a pinch. Great benchman, Dalton, as well. Yeah. But I think his best position is 7.
Do you right, JK?
Yeah, no, I'm all good. I'm happy. I'm happy.
When it gets quiet,
I'm happy to take the conversation.
I look at this forward pack, and I think it's a very, very safe forward pack that you've picked here. But
what's wrong with that?
Are we in a position?
18 tests to go, mate. 18 tests to go.
So you think this is the combination of players?
Can I just come back at you with Dalton Popp, please?
Yes, please.
For the last 257 days of shows that we've done, everyone keeps saying we need a Jerome Kaino. We need someone at 6 that's going to smash people. We need someone that's going to work really hard and carry the ball hard.
Is he a line-out option? Is he a good line-out option? Is he Shannon Frizzell? Is he Tupavai at 6? Is he one of those options, Batesy?
We were digging Jeff. I got a stutter.
That's all the selector wants. He wants a stutter.
I am worried about Batesy stuck in the middle of this.
I was having a dig at Jeff before and have a dig, and I will go with Jeff here. The one thing I reckon there, you're putting a lot of pressure on Sam Whitelock and Brodie Retallick to win your lineouts. I know Artie jumps occasionally. Sam jumped a little bit this weekend, and Dalton jumps occasionally. But a lot of blindside flankers these days in international rugby, remember who's run the World Cup, are big, tall men.
And Batesy, if you're looking at that lineup, you throw to the back all day. If you're the opposition, right? You throw to the back all day, they'll have a big blindside flanker. You've got to have 3 genuine defensive line-out options.
That's boring.
What? That's not boring. That's
boring. Let's change the game up a bit.
We talked about the game being a defensive game right now, so you've got to be able to shut the opposition down.
I'm actually scared, but we're going to go to the back line and just see how we feel about that. Jeff, did you have some... I'm scared.
No, look, the only thing I'd say here is we all undoubtedly know the physical capabilities of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Until I see a body of work over a period of time where the fundamental rugby skills are demonstrated, then all of a sudden I'm just waiting and biding my time on this one. Ideally, I would love to see the skills come to fore, but I'm not 100% sure just yet that combination of 12 and 13 is the future. Oh, look, it's a snapshot. We got a snapshot. I think for me there's a number of things here. Will Jordan, to me, could be Christian Cullen at fullback. We keep putting him on the wing.
What is it about Tuivasa-Sheck that you like so much, JK?
I just think he's X-factor. I think he can give us something to get us over the advantage line. And I think it's been a long time since we've had real out-and-out pace in the midfield, and I think Rico's stepping into that. With Roger at 12, your defence has got to be very good, and you can't drift off to Rico. So for me, I think now, no one asked me context. Did you ask me context?
You love your rules. Let's go to your reserves. Let's have a look at your random reserves.
You can come into some context now.
In the modern game, we've got 23, haven't we?
No.
Yeah, but...
You don't need it.
My wine was warming up.
He's that good.
Right. Someone called, there was
wine. The wine was warming up. What do you want me to do?
The paper towel didn't have room.
It was either the 23rd guy or...
So Angus you can play both sides. He can play both sides. He can play both sides.
Thank you.
Can now.
Thank you.
Well, he's going to have to in his team.
Yeah.
Fozzie's sitting at home going, what is going on? Yeah, he's going, what is
going on? JK's in the paper towel.
We'll wait and see. Your turn's coming up. We'll wait and see. No, I just think that also you get off the bench, Samasoni is unbelievable. I think Angus is also the type of guy we need late. Our props just lately haven't been great ball carriers. If you watch Angus, he's still out wide running and carrying the ball. That late, I think, is going to be important because we've got to play rugby. I was really impressed also with Ethan today. I thought he was outstanding. And he can at a pinch, cover 2 or 3 positions.
JK, I'm going to butt in, and I can't believe you've left out either Hoskins or Akita, mate. You've got to have one of them in there. You've got to have... You've got 4 workers in your loose forward and Artie with a bit of X factor.
Excuse me?
You've got to have someone in there. Don't say Tupou Vai's a loose forward, because then you've got to have a lock.
No, I'll just put him at number 23 now.
Well, you've got to have 2 props. Far out.
It's your team, your prerogative. You can do what you like.
Someone said... It's my team.
You've spent too much time in the last 48 hours in the water, right? You've been surfing.
The surf was good. Surf was. And to be fair, a couple of my surfing mates did give me some advice on that. So it is,
and all their favourites are in the team.
Part of the Waihishan Board Riders Club side as well. No, but look, I think for me, the interesting thing is that we are picking the team now. It's way too early.
No,
right?
it's not.
But I also... No, this was called. It's called way too early. But I think the interesting thing for me is I think Hoskins is playing himself back into some form. Akira's going to be back out there next week. Caleb hasn't played. But what I wanted... The reason I was so conservative is that I thought, what would I do if I played the World Cup tomorrow, right? So there's 18 tests to go. I'm really worried about the backup lock. I don't know what to do there, you know? So there's a lot of things within this team that scare me. And I couldn't be bothered finishing, so that's why you got 22.
Again, we're all going to need to know what that wine was. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much for your time and your thoughts this evening. Appreciate it as always. Have loved spending time with you. It has been quite... Are you all right?
I got the trivia right.
Look, I was going to tell you that later, but he did regrettably get that right. That's on Jim Case. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I've loved filling in for Kirsty. She is back next week. We'll see you again very soon. Enjoy your rugby. Bye for now.
Thanks, Laura. Great job.
Great job.
Ball's been lost, it's been snapped up for the Blues by AJ Lamb. They won't get a finger on him. Here's Talinga putting a little kick through, and this one's been picked up on the fly. Baldry, what a great try.
And Rico's off.
Rico Ioane with the intercept.
And it'll be crazy underneath the pilot bodies. And the Hurricanes get in the groove. Sullivan's the man. Chip in behind and the put down. It's okay for Sullivan.